Your lack of motivation is actually trying to save you. So, a lot of people don't understand why we lose motivation from an evolutionary perspective, but actually, it makes perfect sense. So, the way that motivation works is that it's assessed via a dopaminergic system in the brain, and this system measures reward and effort. And so, you'll be going throughout your day, you'll be doing your tasks or working towards a goal, and while you're doing so, your brain constantly is evaluating how much effort am I going to have to put into this task to get the reward I want to get. Also, how high is the reward and how likely is the reward to come? So, a lot of times, what happens is you'll encounter some type of piece of information that tells you, like, oh, actually, you're going to have to spend a lot more effort on this. Maybe you get an evaluation and your manager or professor or whoever tells you that this wasn't good enough. And so then you get demotivated because you're like, wow, I thought that was enough effort and it wasn't, and so I'm going to have to put more effort in. Another factor that leads to demotivation is the ambiguous reward. So whenever reward feels like, I don't know if this is going to happen, I don't know if my efforts are going to pay off, the brain will automatically run demotivation as a protective mechanism. So the reason it does this is because typically effort was tied to physical effort in the kind of evolutionary context. So now effort is not tied to physical effort. A lot of effort is tied to cognitive effort. But consider this scenario. So let's say you're like a hunter-gatherer and you're gathering berries in a forest, and you keep gathering, you keep gathering, you keep looking, you keep looking, you keep looking, and you're not encountering any berries. Or maybe you're just encountering 2 or 3 berries. And your brain will assess, like, okay, well, I'm not getting many berries, and so my effort is high to obtain berries. Therefore, if I need to keep doing this to obtain 2 or 3 berries, then I will probably deplete all of my calories before I acquire enough berries. Essentially, this demotivation system is saving you in that context, and it can work the same in like a hunting perspective, in which maybe you're tracking an animal and there's no like apparent signs that you're actually going to catch this animal. Therefore, the reward is ambiguous, the effort is high. Your brain automatically runs demotivation, because otherwise, all the humans that didn't have that, they did not make it. And so it can be really difficult to live with this now in the modern age, when a lot of our effort is cognitive effort. Most of the work that we do is cognitive. Therefore, this mechanism doesn't necessarily apply. Like, we could go forever. And that's often why it feels so bad, because you're like, why am I not working? Like, I could be working. But the brain is running an important mechanism that's actually really hard to fight against. And so one step, like the first step in fighting this, is at least knowing what's happening. Because one of the biggest mistakes people make is that they use this feeling of demotivation as evidence that what they're doing isn't on the right path, that it's not going to work out, that they should stop, and they use it as evidence. It is not evidence. Basically, what's happened is that your brain has run the analysis and it's decided that, hey, effort is high and reward is ambiguous. And we automatically run demotivation based on those circumstances. And so if you're in a role like entrepreneurship, it's actually very, very advantageous to continue effort even when reward is ambiguous, because that's like the name of the game of being an entrepreneur, especially in startups and tech and all that. And so you need to be careful to interpret a normal evolutionary mechanism as important information of what you should or should not do. Because a lot of times we interpret this as something has gone horribly wrong, I'm no longer motivated, maybe this is the wrong idea, maybe this is the wrong business, maybe I'm not good enough, blah, 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 right? And so just make sure that you understand what's actually going on. And you have to understand that the brain was not made to work in your tech startup. The brain was made to forage and hunt for animals and exert physical effort in order to get a reward, in which it was typically calories that sustained life. And so I think this is really important to know. A lot of people are not taught this. Like, we are not taught this in school. And so we think that our demotivation is like a magical sign from the universe that we should stop doing things. That is not the case. And what needs to be learned is the skill of not using your emotional demotivation as evidence of what you should do and not do. Obviously, we should always take our emotions into account, but when it's just running like regular analysis of reward versus effort and resulting in demotivation, then you don't need to use it as information. You need to learn the skill of working from a state of demotivation, pursuing your goal from a state of demotivation, because that is possible. You don't have to be motivated all the time. It's okay. You don't have to feel like, I really, really want to do this and I'm so sure it's going to work out. That's the skill that needs to be learned. And when you sit around and kind of analyze, like, oh, should I be doing this? Should I not? Am I good enough? Am I not? Then you're wasting time when you could be learning this skill.